Hello, and welcome to Upfront. My name is Dean Thullner, and we are filming on the unceded Nanaimo traditional territory. What you do can make a difference, but it's how you decide to make a difference that counts. I have the pleasure today of sitting down with Scott Ferron from Helmet Head Canada to discuss how he chose to make a difference and the impact that it's making and how we can support him. Hello, Scott.
Hey, Dean.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for coming out today.
Thank you.
So Helmet Heads, look, we're surrounded by all these fabulous Helmet Heads. Let's talk about what is Helmet Heads Canada.
Helmet Heads. Well, we are a nonprofit society where we collect toys, clean them, sanitize them, prep them for distribution to local hospitals on the island.
I see.
The main focus of Helmet Heads is to make sure that the toys that are donated on the island stay on the island.
Well, I was on your website, I unpacked it a little bit, and I noticed that at some point you had noticed yourself that a lot of the toys that were being donated were actually ending up on the ferry and heading to Vancouver. So what inspired you to change that?
What inspired me was the conversation I've had with different friends of mine, some of who are nurses and doctors. And I would ask them, I said, do you ever receive toy donations? And they would say, no, not very often. And watching through, the space of 4 or 5 months, there's multiple toy runs that have happened, and yet the donations never hit the hospitals. Some of the deliveries I've made to Comox, Campbell River, Port Hardy, Port McNeill, I've been the first toy donation that they've received. So it really hit home that what I'm doing is working and it's needed.
So let's go back a little bit in history here. What you're doing is working, but why did you decide to do this? What prompted you in your life to take this initiative on?
Going back in time a little bit. When I was an infant, I was very, very sick. And I was in hospital, I think for 6 months to a year. Pretty terminal, pretty touch and go. And my mother at the time, she didn't really receive a whole lot of support from the hospital staff. Just flat out overworked. And so I wanted to try and give back to make sure that the staff have something to give their patients to help promote healing. Mm-hmm. It's something that has been documented and tested that a happy kid heals faster. And there's no science behind it, it just seems to work.
The other thing is you mentioned that your mother didn't have a lot of support. A lot of parents, when they have a sick child, they have to take time off work. Financially, it can be quite strapping for them. So this project, Helmet Head Canada, you are focusing not only on the infant, but you're supporting the entire family.
Trying to. I guess the real hard part of that is you can only do so much. It would be great to take, all 21 babies that are born prematurely at VGH and give all the parents gift cards for meals, for the deli across the street, for Tim Hortons or whatever, so they don't have to worry about meals. But it's not in the budget. We just don't have that many donations for that sort of stuff.
Right. Well, we'll get to that. We're gonna get the audience inspired to help you out here. But there is a website. I encourage the audience to go to helmetheads.ca, and there is an area where you can donate, and you can donate to get gift cards for family members to try to help them out.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I have an image that I wanted to put up, and I believe it's of you delivering some toys with a red mask on. They're going to put it up. Can you tell me about that photo?
I believe that was Christmas I think it's 2021, 2022. No, 2022, because I was in the middle of building that helmet. So yeah, we were delivering, I think that one has 4 bins of toys to, I think it was Nanaimo.
Uh-huh. So you are building these helmets. Look around, everybody. This is a labor of love. How does this work? How do you decide to create these helmets? And let's talk about some of the labor that goes into this.
It's a ton of work. I'm not going to candy coat it. It's basically taking a stitch of fabric, cutting out a pattern, making sure that it slides over the helmet. And so you have the base shape. And of course, you have the mouth opening, which is where the visor is. after that, once you have that pattern and it slips on and off the helmet, then you just add to it. So for example, you have Dr. Tooth from the Muppets. And he's probably got maybe 100 hours into it and probably close to $200 or $300 worth of material just testing.
Yeah, well, the execution's fabulous. It's kind of ironic I'm sitting next to Beaker. It was my nickname in high school. I don't know if you can see the difference. But yeah, they're so well made. They're excellent. So why helmets? What's it like when you walk into a hospital with a helmet on? What does this do?
It's instant happiness. One of the big things I like about the helmets is that it has this kind of wow factor. No one's expecting it. No one's expecting to see anything even remotely close to it. And having the motorcycle helmet on hides the face. So you don't know who I am. I just know that there's this crazy Muppet guy that comes in and drops these toys off. So it has a bit of an anonymity to it.
Of course.
And that kind of helps promote it could be anyone.
Uh-huh. Okay, so when you go to the hospital, you're arriving with these bins. It's a lot of work. What's the process? Someone donates toys, but they're going into a hospital. There has to be some sort of sanitation. There has to be some restrictions on how to get them from where you live to each hospital.
Correct.
How does that work?
Well, upon receipt of a new toy, that's the big takeaway there. It has to be a new toy in a packaging, and if it's a teddy bear, it has to be sanitized. So, for example, I'll receive a Hot Wheels toy. That will be wiped down with Lysol wipes and be placed into a bin that has been cleaned by Lysol wipes. And once it goes in that bin and the lid goes on, it's never touched again. It's really important to have that step-by-step trust from that process, because that comes directly from the health board. If that is broken in any way, it can't be trusted, it has to be re-sanitized. Having a sanitized bin dropped off that gets to stay at the hospital means the nurses don't have to worry about storage. They don't have to try and find a place to put them. Once the bins are empty, my phone number's on it, they call me, I come, I take away the empty, and I bring them a full. It's that simple.
It's quite this is a colossal undertaking, and I'm concerned because I see the amount of bins. I've gone on the website and seen how many hospitals you're servicing. How many people are helping you?
3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this show, we're going to find a way to support Scott and support this initiative to help our sick kids on the island. Okay, so I wanted to talk about some of the struggles that the parents might have. You've seen that firsthand.
I have.
So what does that feel like when you go in the hospital and you have a moment with these parents? What's that like?
I've never actually had moments with the parents. I've seen it, and I try to make sure I keep my distance. A lot of times, having someone show up unannounced, it kind of puts you on defense, even though you're wearing a silly, funny helmet, and it's supposed to be all fun and games. I don't know the severity of the situation, so I try to respect the privacy. I read the room as best I can, and if the room says, yeah, come on in, I'll kind of poke my head in the door and I'll wave and I'll smile and then I'll back away. If it's not quite there, then I'll just kind of walk by the room. And if they look, they look, and if they don't, they don't. It's kind of hard not to get involved, but it's also kind of important to make sure that you keep that distance. You don't want to get too friendly.
Well, this is one of those occupations or choices that you have to be mindful of your own mental health as well. This is a really overwhelming task. You're seeing constantly this amount of children that are suffering, right? Yeah, it must be difficult for you too.
It is. It's hard because I know I can only do so much, and there's been a couple of years where I've outdone my own finances, and it's cost me. So I've had to scale myself back and say, look, I can only do so much, and if I can't do it all, well then, it has to stop here. Otherwise, I end up hurting myself.
Yeah, which is not counterproductive. But you're doing such an incredible thing.
So far it's
you're
working
doing
out.
a great thing. Okay, so what goes on behind the scenes? How does this work? Like, I want to donate a toy. How does this?
So
what's
if
the
you want to
process?
donate a toy, there's a couple of toy stores on the island. Save on Food, sell toys. Thrifties, I think, has a little toy section. London Drugs, Canadian Tire. Lots of little places you can buy toys. My big difficulty is getting places to host a bin for collection. So for someone to say, hey, I've got a toy I want to donate, it's up to me to go and collect it. Right now I've got Mastermind Toys in Langford, and they have a full-time bin set up for me now, so that's kind of nice. Where you can drop a toy off, and then when it gets full, they'll give me a call, I'll pick it up, I'll sanitize it, throw it in a bin, and then it's ready to go.
Ready to go where?
Ready to go anywhere, whoever calls first.
Yeah, but let's talk about that. So your Helmet Heads Canada is different than Helmet Heads Vancouver Island, clearly.
Yes.
Okay, what's the difference between that?
Helmet Head Canada was how my friend Josh and I started this crazy endeavor. It started off as a bad idea. We're gonna buy these crazy helmet heads, not these elaborate ones, but the more simpler ones. We're gonna put them on our helmets and we're gonna ride around town and just be silly. And that snowballed into doing parades, that snowballed into, hey, do you donate toys, to doing toy runs, to what you see today. Kind of circling back to how it came about, I'm working in the military, so I was posted in Halifax at the time. And this is where this idea came from. When I got posted to Victoria, this is where I started to learn about where the toys are being donated and where they were being shipped off. And that's when I decided to take the idea from Halifax and kind of mold it into, maybe I can do something more.
Mm-hmm. And you are doing more, but you're doing more all across the island. So who are the beneficiaries of these toys?
It's the whole island now. I think my first delivery was 2018 to Janice Place. In 2019, I had Janice Place, Victoria General. And then in 2020, I added Nanaimo. And then in 2021, I added Duncan and Royal Jubilee and Comox and Campbell River. And then just last year, we did every hospital on the island, including Alert Bay up north.
So there's costs here. I mean, you have to pay for gas. You have to pay for sanitation of these bins.
Yes.
You're having to pay for, let's say, your website,
Yep.
right? So not only are you needing support from the community in regards to getting the toys to the kids, but you're going to need some support in regards to running this operation.
Yeah, it definitely gets expensive. The bins, they're not cheap. They're anywhere from $11 to $15 a piece, depending when you get them on sale. And a lot of times the bins will go to the hospital, you don't get them back. That's the cost of doing business. I'm not gonna go and chase down a $12 bin from Campbell River when I can just go and buy another one and call it a day. I'm not really worried about that. The website, yes, it costs money to manage, but it's also a good advertising tool. Fuel, that's the big one.
We're all suffering from that.
Yeah,
definitely.
and then there's the parade insurance.
Well, of course, the website's crucial for your success because you have an area where you can donate off the website, right?
Yeah, that's new just this year. Got Printful as managing our swag, and you can buy mugs and T-shirts and jackets and hats and stuff, and a small percentage of that will come back to Helmet Head, and then we'll be able to use that to pay for the infrastructure.
Right, subsidize the essentials. Okay, so I want to talk about what is Support the Toy Run GoFundMe donations. What is that?
That is basically a way for us to fundraise. We are looking for people to donate so that we can cover our costs and we can continue this operation more than just Christmas. Everybody does Christmas. Lots of toy runs in Christmas. Everybody does it. Kids don't get sick at Christmas. They put it off because they want to have toys, they want to have turkey dinner, and they want to have a nice Christmas experience. They get sick all year round. There's kids that go for dialysis every week. There's kids in a ledger house that are brought off the street after 4 or 5 years. So these are the kids that I'm remembering to support. I mean, it's it's kind of a soft spot in my heart. The kids at Ledger House, those are the forgotten ones. Gone through foster care, lived on the street, get picked up by an ambulance or brought in by the cops. Those ones are always in need, and they have a very specific need for toys. Have to be whatever they're into. They have to have no sharp edges. They have to have no plastic that can be used to suffocate things. Like, there's a bunch of safety stuff.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so the whole year is a fundraising event. And so the GoFundMe and the website and the swag and all that kind of trickle in money helps to pay for multiple deliveries throughout the year. The parades, for example, we're doing the Buccaneer Parade on the 11th and the Victoria Parade on the 20th of May. Those are kind of our advertising. So we can actually say, hey, look at all these crazy helmet heads. And that kind of draws people into the website and helps them understand why we're doing what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. So on your website, under the support the toy runs, it states that you service 13 hospitals.
I think we're up to 15 now.
15 hospitals, 2,100 children and teenagers.
It's more than that now.
It's more than that, all right. Multiple premature babies.
Yes.
Emergency room supplies.
Yep.
And 102 BC ambulances.
I think there's more now.
Wow, again, commendable.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
The need has grown, and the more people find out about how I preserve and present the toys, makes it more desirable for multiple agencies to say, hey, I like how you're sanitizing them. I like how it's presented. Mm-hmm. Can we be a part of this?
So toys is a general term. There are children in the hospital that are 2, there are children in the hospital that are 12.
Correct.
So I think on your website, yes, I know there is on your website, a section that can guide people to buy toys that are appropriate for different age groups.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Most of the toy donations coming in are geared for kids aged 4 to 8. And that's one of the hardest things to manage, is there's not very many kids in the hospital aged 4 to 8. It's the entire gamut. You've got premature, and then you've got the parents supporting that. You've got all the way to the 17-year-olds. I mean, they're not adults yet, 18-year-olds. So you have that whole range of child that could have any number of reasons for being in the hospital. Broken arm, broken toe, just sick. And they're stuck in a waiting room in the emergency department for 6 hours. I mean, how boring is that? When you could have like a cool coloring book and a box of crayons, and you got something to do. Mm-hmm.
But I'm also assuming that there are children that are in the hospitals for an extended long periods of time.
Yes, and there's also kids that don't stay at the hospital but go to the hospital every week.
Right.
So you'll have some children in there that are recovering from operations. They're under treatment for weeks. And then you have children that come in and have a 4-hour appointment on a dialysis machine and then go home. So all of those reasons for being in the hospital, we kind of just chalk it up to they're ill. We don't really care why.
Of course.
And so they're just going to get something geared toward their age, something that's going to be safe enough for them to use in their hospital bed, wherever they happen to be, either in the emergency room or in a actual hospital room. Something they can do that's safe, that they can take home with them, or if they're in the emergency department, they can just keep it and take it home. Mm-hmm. It's not something that has to stay at the hospital.
Well, regretfully, sadly, some children don't leave the hospital.
Correct.
And that's also a need, is to make sure that the latter part of their lives are filled with some sort of joy and some activities and things to do, correct?
Yeah. So there are wish lists, and that's kind of like the hidden part that we're just starting to explore. And I know of 2 kids that didn't make it, sadly. However, I do have 3 success stories that did. So you kind of take the good with the bad. The wish list comes through. We have a child at this place likes, I don't know, dragons. What can you do? And I say, you know what, just don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. And I'll go and I'll find a dragon, and if funds permit, I'll just go and buy it. And then I'll sanitize it, throw it in a bin, and deliver it one day. Mm-hmm. Just unannounced, unplanned. It's really kind of cool if it's not expected, because now it's a surprise. And if it's something that they really like, it's even a bigger surprise. So that kind of makes it more fun for me.
Again, I am absolutely in awe of what you do for this community and all these kids. It's incredible. Okay, so age listings. I do want to encourage the audience to go to your website, and there are age listings. It's 0 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 9, 8 to 10, 11 to 13, 14 to 17. This is a really good guideline for people who are interested to support kids that are sick to be able to navigate what's appropriate for those age groups.
Yeah, and those are toys that are going to be easy to find. That's one of the big things is you're always going to have these weird toys that come out, like for example, the wooden puzzles. A lot of kids really like the wooden puzzles, but they're hard to find and they're not cheap. So yes, there are going to be some toys that are unique and not on the list, and they're going to be totally acceptable as well.
So do you have sponsors?
Sort of. Sort of. I've had sponsors in the past, but they're not recurring sponsors.
Right.
And that's the hard part is I don't have a lot of time. I work full time, and trying to shop for sponsors, doing all the fundraising is just not something that's in my wheelhouse. So this is kind of a part-time gig that I kind of do on the side, a couple hours a night here and there, make some helmets, ride around. Word of mouth is kind of how it works.
Mm-hmm. So I know that you know this, my background is fundraising. So third-party fundraisers might be advantageous for you if people decided to do something on their own initiative to be able to support you.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's more than welcome.
And I always tell the audience, no fundraiser is too big or too small. It can be a bake sale, it can be a school dance, it can be a drive-in through your high school. But please reach out to Helmet Heads Canada to support them. And like I said, nothing is too big or too small.
Thank you.
How can we support you? What is your greatest needs?
The hardest thing for me is, sadly, cash. It's paying for the fuel, it's paying for the insurance, it's paying for the bins when they don't come back, paying for Lysol wipes, all the little things that add up. I think one year I went through $35,000. It just consumes that much. The other one is places for people to donate toys to. So, for example, we had Duncan Dodge last year that had a Stuff the Truck event. And that was kind of good for that small area. We had Liquor Planet, they had a box, and that was that area. So for us to do the whole island, it'd be really advantageous to have a spot to...
Like a flagship sponsor.
Yeah, just to have something full-time like Masterminds in Langford, where they have a box and it's always there and they know where it goes and they know what it's for.
Mm-hmm. We got to work on that.
It's on the to-do list.
Okay. So how do you, if you want to become a sponsor, how would you become a sponsor?
Simple email. Email, phone call.
And the email address is?
helmetheadcanada@gmail.com.
Great. That's running right underneath us right now.
Right on. Yeah, just reach out and ask how you'd like to be a sponsor. I will give you a plethora of ways to help out.
Yeah, I'd like to also point out that you are a charity.
Yes.
So if you wanted to be a sponsor, you would also be able to have some sort of tax receipt or recognition through that as well.
Yeah, we have a society number. It's a nonprofit society. So we can write we have a number that I write on the bottom of receipts.
Yeah, great. Well, that's very important, right? So again, drop-off locations for people is Mastermind Toys, Langford, Liquor Planet, Langford,
Yes.
North Oyster Fire Hall.
Yes, they were a sponsor in 2020 and 2021.
The Brass Bell Pub.
Yep.
And that's in Crofton?
Correct.
Yes. And the Ruffle and Brown. What's Ruffle and Brown?
They're a window covering company. They were a sponsor last year.
So we're definitely looking for more people in the community to be able to host some bins or some drop-off for you, make life a little easier.
It's Langford's pretty well covered. Liquor Planet's now kind of an ongoing Christmas event. Mastermind Toys is year-round. It's the year-round places in different communities that's the hard part.
I've got a couple photos that I want to share with the audience, and it is of a group of helmet heads together. It's two, I believe, from the same event. How many people came out for that event?
I think there's 52 motorcycles. We had a Peterbilt truck. We had my truck and trailer. We had a a custom motorcycle that we were raffling off. That was our biggest event, our biggest turnout, and that was the May parade. Yeah, the May Day parade last year.
Right. And now again, I'm going to refer to some photos. I've got a couple photos of hospital visits. So can you tell me a little bit about those photos?
Yeah, so what'll happen is I'll ride up on the motorcycle, I'll place the bins on a dolly, and I'll wheel up right to the emergency department, check in. They usually take me up to pediatrics, and I'll meet a host of nurses. And those nurses are the ones that will be opening the lids and handing out the toys. So there's no red tape involved. A lot of the times when a hospital gets, say, a $1,000 donation, goes into a trust fund, goes through the bean counters, gets monitored. A nurse has to go on her private time after work to go and spend the money, then has to come back, account for it. There's a lot of red tape. This eliminates all of it.
Perfect. So we are getting close to the end of our visit here. And again, thank you so much for coming out. And on behalf of everybody, thank you so much for what you do. It's an incredible undertaking. You're definitely a force to be reckoned with, a one-man show here, but you do need support. So I would please encourage the audience to go to helmetheads.ca and to support them. Cash is great, toys are great, gift cards for families are great. Create your own fundraiser if you can, but reach out and support them. This guy's doing a great job and he needs our support. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we close today?
No, just thank you very much for the publicity. I mean, it's more than I could ask for. It's getting the word out is the hard part.
Of course. Well, it's a great organization. You're doing an amazing job. I'm sure so many families and so many children have benefited and are extremely grateful. Thanks so much for joining me on Upfront. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.